The term queer theory was developed in the 1990s by Italian feminist and film theorist Teresa de Lauretis for a conference she organized at the University of California, Santa Cruz. It was also defined by Alexander Doty, Judith Butler, Eve Sedgwick, Adrienne Rich, and David Halperin. As quoted by David Halperin, queer is by definition whatever is at odds with the normal, the legitimate, the dominant. There is nothing in particular to which it necessarily refers. In a nutshell, in queer theory, the word queer does not necessarily mean gay, but stands for a position that rejects conventions or mainstream expression of all types of behavior, including sexuality and gender. Theorists of queer theory believe that identities are not fixed but are fluid and changing, not only for different people but within each person at different times. See if you can find examples of queer theory in our chosen books, TV shows, and movies. Look for any kind of identity or behavior that would fall outside of the typical mainstream, or a behavior or action that would be considered deviant to our society's normal standards.
The representation of the LGBTQ community in today's media leaves little room for diversity. A majority of characters in films are downplayed and go without due recognition. Movies are made and roles are cast, but the credit is not given. Movies with queer themes are treated like car crashes on the side of the road. It's there, open to public eye, but gets a quick glance and left behind. Brokeback Mountain, for instance, is known as a classic film in the queer community. The film follows a rodeo cowboy, Jack Twist, and his blooming relationship with his right hand, Ennis. In 2006, Larry Miller, the owner of multiple theaters in Utah, canceled showings of the movie. Miller explained that the film was canceled due to it being dangerous to traditional families. Not only was the movie pulled, the Catholic News Service changed their rating of the movie due to its backlash from multiple pro-family organizations. Their first rating of L meant that the film was appropriate for limited adult audiences. After complaints from the organizations, the film was rated as O, meaning morally offensive. Homosexual relationships went against Catholic teaching, so the broadcasting of the two cowboys was seen as morally wrong and offensive.
As we move on to books, we circle back to Fight Club. Palahniuk's lesser-known 1996 novel, in which David Fincher's 1999 cult classic movie is based on, is a scathing satire of consumerist culture, the branding of lifestyle, and toxic masculinity. While the main focus of Palahniuk's prose may be centered around the idea of the danger of hypermasculinity, our main character's relationship with one another tends to bend what is considered normal for the average heterosexual male, considering this is how they meet in the novel.
How I met Tyler was I went to a nude beach. His name was Tyler Durden, and he was a movie projectionist with the union, and he was a banquet waiter at a hotel downtown, and he gave me his phone number, and this is how we met.
So, context be damned, whether this was Palahniuk's intention or not, the book is really good at giving the impression that the narrator's infatuation for his best buddy Tyler goes a little deeper than friendship. But Palahniuk isn't the only author who had a knack for portraying his characters in a less than heterosexual light.
The concept comes easily when considering an analysis of Oscar Wilde's novel The Picture of Dorian Gray, first published in 1890. This analysis becomes far less difficult once you consider the fact Oscar Wilde was a notorious homosexual in an era where homosexuality was punishable by prison time and or death. But viewing the characters in a light that does not inherently paint them in shades of heterosexuality opens up more understanding for a story than one might not have previously had, which could be considered true for the book explained before. Suddenly I found myself face to face with a young man whose personality had so strangely stirred me. We were quite close, almost touching. Our eyes met again. It was reckless of me, but I asked Lady Brandon to introduce me to him. Perhaps it was not so reckless after all. It was simply inevitable. We would have spoken to each other without any introduction. I am sure of that. Dorian told me so afterwards. He, too, felt that we were destined to know each other. Tell me more about Mr. Dorian Gray. How often do you see him? Every day. I couldn't be happy if I didn't see him every day. He is absolutely necessary to me. How extraordinary. I thought you would never care for anything but your art. He is all my art to me now.
Queer theory in television. Let's take a look at the show Modern Family. Manny's character in the show breaks stereotype of the young boys in his age group. He likes to cook, he watches what he eats, he's not athletic, sophisticated in his schoolwork and culture, is a good listener, is not the tough guy, and his dad desperately wants him to be cool.
What are you gonna get, Luke?
I want a cheeseburger.
Yeah!
I can't decide between french fries or onion rings.
Get them both! How about you, Manny?
Do you have a skinless grilled chicken breast?
What are you going to the ball, Cinderella?
In Manny's example, we see how society has influenced the opinions of what traits are socially acceptable. Luke's decisions are reinforced by his mom, and when Manny wants to eat something healthy, he's compared to a Disney princess watching her figure. In Manny's example, we see how society has influenced the opinions of what traits are socially acceptable. Young boys should not be expected to eat healthy, and is seen in this example as not fun to be around. Now let's watch a video clip from the TV show Scrubs.
Pretty great, huh?
Well, when you're right, you're right.
Yeah.
So how's your day going?
It's pretty good so far. I see you're eating bread again. I thought you were off carbs.
JD!
I'm sorry, I'm back. Continue.
We're senior staff now, so maybe at work we should tone down the PDA.
I agree. But does that include...
It definitely includes Eagle.
Oh, good. Oh, look at that. I'm not hungry anymore.
This video sums up the nature of the intimate relationship between JD and Turk. The office makes fun of them for how much love they show towards one another and feel the need to stop showing PDA in the hospital to prevent people from talking about them that way. They are both outwardly straight men who even have love interests with women that they work with.